dormir porque The 1 Hour Show está por comenzar. Con ustedes, el hombre más conocido en el bajo mundo de Tacoma, el más buscado en 17 estados y 22 cortes, el ajonjolí de todos los moles, el hombre detrás del volante, The Metal. ¡Ay, papi! Así que prepárense para una hora informativa, pero también divertida de el show de The 1 Hour Show. Con ustedes, Juan José Chávez.
All righty, here we are, another Wednesday. I haven't been doing the shows a couple of weeks, and it's going to be nice to get back into the 1 Hour Show. Tonight, we have a special guest, but before we get to my special guest, I want to say a few words. And for those who are watching, thank you tonight, and those who are watching later on in the podcast, I thank you. I normally say that this is a Spanglish community radio. We do it in Spanish and we do it in English. But we're going to try to work a little bit on my format. I'm going to do some light introductions, and then maybe they might say a little bit about themselves. But I'm going to start with we're going to start here by kind of setting up the show too a little bit. What I'm hoping to accomplish today, and I'm hoping to accomplish with the 1 Hour Show is, I've seen a few comments today on the advertisement, and the 1 Hour Show, it made me think a little bit. The 1 Hour Show really is about getting to know the people. You know, there's a lot of events, there's a lot of things happening in Tacoma, there's a lot of movement, there's a lot of political action, there's a lot of representation, there's different districts, there's, you know, all the way up to the governor, and we hear the news and we hear the headlines and we hear the rumors and we see Facebook, but sometimes we don't know who the person who's writing it or the person you're listening to. And the purpose of my show is I want people to understand and get to know the people. This is why I'm very excited right now to introduce my friends here. And I'm going to start with my special guest tonight. It's really an honor to have this gentleman here on my show, because I watched this guy quite a bit, you know. Especially I've seen him at City Council, and today a lot of people kind of hide behind the kindness and political game, I call it. But one of the things I love about my guest is he speaks his mind, and I honor that, because a lot of us are trying to keep face. I don't know how to say it. What do you guys think? You know, trying to keep ourselves politically correct. And I'm not saying he's not incorrect. I'm saying I love the fact that this gentleman, sometimes you got to call it a space when it's a space, you know. So let me see if I can find my introductions here. So today, you know what? It's under the text. Okay, sorry. I'm looking like a non-professional here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce Alton McDonald. And for those who know him, you'll never forget him. But those who don't know him, I'm glad you get to learn him and meet him in our show. Now, he has been a resident for 30 years in Tacoma. So if anybody knows Tacoma, it's him. I also have a business, and he's a local business. And we suffer probably similar things through this city, you know. He has been a staple for decades in the Pierce County area. He's leveraged his voice in many battles. Most recently, he released the release of Darkest Allen, and for the designation of the County Sheriff Ed Troyer, I'm sorry. New contacts. Sorry, guys, I got new contacts, and this is bad. Okay, but bottom line is that we have him. I'm gonna have him say a few words, but before that, I'm gonna let my guests introduce themselves because my contacts aren't working. So just basically say this. This is sad, but I got new contacts, and it's bad, and I don't want to be rude and sound like a, you know. So, but this is why they love this show, okay, guys? This is life. This is.
So you know what we should do is that Nikki should introduce me. And
okay, there you go. Because
then that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Melissa Knott Scott was born at Madigan Hospital, Hospital, and grew up on the south side of Tacoma. Melissa has been an involved catalyst of change for the majority of her life and is currently the vice chair of South End Neighborhood Council, Democratic State Committee member for Legislative District 29, and second Western vice chair for the State Democratic Stonewall Caucus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that
Like
it?
I said.
Yep. I guess. I don't know. And then where's hers? Hers is right here.
Hers is a book. Yeah.
Okay, Nikki is a T-Town transplant from Riverside, California, where she was a teacher for over 13 years and public servant at the city of Moreno Valley for 8 of those years. After moving to Tacoma in 2016, she quickly became a grassroots activist after she attended a city council meeting and was horrified by what she observed. Since then, she's been working mostly on environmental justice, civil rights, human rights, treaty rights, and social justice causes in the local, state, and even on a little of the federal levels. Today, she is twice elected Precinct Committee Officer for the 29th Legislative District and serves on the board of the Sustainable Tacoma Commission at the City of Tacoma, where, along with other commissioners, they work on the city's environmental policy and plans. Nikki has never lived anywhere that she has felt such a strong sense of community like she has experienced in Tacoma, and even though she's not from here, she does what she does because Tacoma, the people, the future generations, and in the words of Ramona Bennett, all life deserve an equitable and clean environment to live and thrive in.
Thank you. Thank you for saving me right now because I can't even see my phone. So, bottom line is, let's go ahead and let's get into let's have Mr. Alton McDonald talk a little bit. How are you doing today, sir?
Oh, I am good. Well, how are you?
Embarrassed right now. I went to pick him up yesterday, and I thought, I got it. If you've been watching my show, I've had cooking classes for like 4 years that I've been doing this. So, but bottom line, not enough. This is not about me. This is about you. Welcome to the 1 hour show. And I don't know if you follow my echo here, but you have a voice, and I admire that because the political correctness that a lot of us play is critical of how things get done. But I believe that when thing has to be cool, you got to call it like it is. And so thank you for doing that. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Yes. Just as all of us, I say we are taxpayers and citizens of this city of Tacoma and resident, and I think we have a civic duty and responsibility as taxpayers to be engaged in our city and both city, county, and state government. Because if we extricate ourselves out of this process, then the politicians get away and do whatever they want to do with no accountability. So if we're not in tune to what they're doing, then we can't hold them accountable after we vote them into office. So we have to stay in tune.
Exactly. And, and that's the key word, accountability. I feel like our current system is basically we are allowed to express our feelings under a time clock. And I'll be honest with you, I don't feel heard sometimes. I feel like people has already made up minds and projects are already been taken or decisions have been made, and I feel like a lot of the times is we're after the fact. So,
well, I mean, it's legally binding to hear us, right?
Yeah.
But it's not legally binding to listen to us.
Exactly. And one of the things I know about local politics that a lot of people say it is that you can please some people, but you can't please everybody. But it's not about pleasing. Sometimes it's about listening. I feel like, I'll be honest with you, I feel heard in many ways, but in many ways I don't feel like we're being heard.
Yeah, and Alton, didn't you wanted to talk more about the lifting of the moratorium on the electric bills and on our rents, right? Is that that's what you wanted to focus on today?
Yeah.
Yes, I would like to share my thought in that because, I've been to city council many times, and I've articulated to the city council that myself, living here as an immigrant who migrated from Jamaica, which I'm proud of. I'm proud that I am here living in the United States of America because this is a great country. But being a part of the greater human family, living here, I've been fortunate that I have never been homeless. However, I empathize with those of my fellow Americans who live within the city of Tacoma and throughout the United States, but especially since I'm living here in the city of Tacoma, who are now facing homelessness, who are currently on the street, living in the city, in city streets, and as we travel through the city, we can see the different tents set up on the freeways within the city limits and elsewhere throughout the city. And it's very frustrating to me as a human being to see how people live in a squalor. I call it a squalor because no normal person should be living like that behind the post office. So it kind of hurts. And so the moratorium being lifted where landlords are allowed now to raise their rent. The rent that was not being paid by those citizens because of COVID, they were impacted greatly because of their jobs. Everything was shut down, there were no jobs. And now the landlords could not evict those renters from their property. So the moratorium has been lifted, and people are saying that we're back to normal, but in fact, we are not. So the landlords now get a reprieve from the bank because the bank told them that they will put those missing rent for 2 years on the back of your mortgage, but they're going towards the tenant to collect those rent. And to me, that's not fair. And not only that, to make matters worse, they have now increasing the rent and the renters who are in their property. So that means if you lost your job in COVID, didn't get a job now, your rent goes up 18% more than what you were paying, you and your children really going to be homeless. And so that's not a good thing. And this is what I've articulated to City Council, because I don't believe in the council members. I think one council member stated at one time that he was homeless at one time, but now he's not. To be one time homeless and you're not homeless anymore don't make you a homeless person, right? So I would hope that city council member would have empathized and put more force behind his language to empathize with those who are. And so this is a concern to me. My heart aches for those residents, fellow Americans who will be facing new eviction from their place of living because won't be able to pay the increased rent. It is just not okay. And I hope that the mayor, the council members can do something about this matter. They're our elected official, and I hope that they will do something. And the only way that they're able to do something, we the people have to force them to do the things that needs to get done.
Right, and what I just want to piggyback off of something that Alton said when it came to the increase of rental prices are up 18%, right? So the Seattle PI said that compared to most large cities across the country, Tacoma is less affordable for renters. And the Seattle PI and the TNT both talked about that rental prices were up 18% in 2021 compared to 2020. And there was a slight decrease in January of 2022 of 1.1%, but that still doesn't really mean anything when it comes to the fact that, like, even still, it's a 16.9% increase on a rent, a monthly rent that people aren't even able to pay at this point because we just now came out of a pandemic. Yeah. You know, it wasn't like, oh well, 2 years ago we came out of the pandemic and now you should be able to afford things. No, we just now raised the moratorium on rents. We at the same time that we just now ended this said that the pandemic is in. It's not over, right? It's not over. But we've opened our economy and we're saying that it's over, right? And literally let me look.
Although you said something here, it goes with what you're saying. I'm not changing the topic, but we became a service area.
Oh yeah, we're a service city.
We're a service city. We don't have major manufacturing. I mean, that's why they're talking about creating that big old warehouse. Yeah,
and that the National Low Income Housing Coalition published an annual report in 2019, and it says that people in Tacoma, I'm not talking about any other place than Tacoma right now, right this minute. I mean, our area, Tacoma and surrounding area. I'm not talking about Ohio. I'm not talking about, somewhere that isn't affecting our area. That the National Low Income Housing Coalition published in 2019 that people in Tacoma, one person would have to make $24.33 an hour to rent an apartment that is at $1,265 a month. Now we have 400 square feet apartments at $1,400 a month right now. So one person would have to make $24.33 an hour to be able to rent this lower lower rate apartment than the $1,400 ones that we have. And our minimum wage,
don't forget the square
footage. Right, the 400 square footage, and our minimum wage is $14.49 an hour. So, and also when it comes to that, most minimum wage jobs and most service jobs are not full-time. They're not full-time, they're part-time.
They're part-time, yeah.
So you're gonna have to have multiple streams of income, and this whole hustler kind of mentality, and if you're broke, then it's your own fault. It's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable.
No, and I also believe that the employers who can make a difference and help people out are not doing it.
Oh yeah, they're not.
Even though we, I call it we because I consider smaller business. We're trying our hardest to get as much hours or out of the service side of things, and this is why Amazon, they're unionizing right now.
Right, it's why Amazon is trying to take over our whole entire area at this point right now, as it is. And I keep saying this to people, and people are like, what are you talking about, Melissa? And literally, if you look around our area, you'll see all of these warehouses being built in low-income areas, in low-income places. So they're tearing down all of the affordable apartments, apartments and housing that people have been able to scrape by and make sure that they stay housed. They're tearing these places down and they're building warehouses. And on top of that, then Amazon is contracting with Tacoma Public Schools, and they're actually trying to contract with Bellingham schools. Somewhere else right now, but they have already contracted with 2 of Tacoma Public Schools to put in their Bezos academies. So our 4-year-olds are being taught by Amazon to be consumers, and they're in our lowest income schools. So basically what you're doing is you're setting up generations of people to work in your warehouses, consume your products. Instead of trying to set up people to be actually
producing something.
Yeah, they're setting up people to be producers instead of setting up people to be there to reach their fullest potential, because it's all about the corporations, and it's not about the people. And our local government is literally not just allowing for this to happen, but they are in making this happen, and they're benefiting, and they're also I'm gonna shut up once I say this one thing right here, but they're also partnering with people like Tacoma Safe and Impact Tacoma and all of these. Well, Tacoma Safe has become partially Impact Tacoma, and that other, I can't remember what the other organization is supposed to be, but they've Tacoma Safe has rebranded themselves. Half of them have rebranded themselves as Impact Tacoma, and they've hired consultants to make it seem like, well, we're just trying to help, but you're really not trying to help. You're really trying to demonize the low income people and the homeless people, and then it makes it easier for you to go ahead and do what they're doing right now. You can look right outside the doors of this establishment and see all of these. Nikki and I just drove past all of these boulders that they've, rock gardens that they're putting out.
But now it's a big rock garden.
Right, so that the homeless cannot, sleep there or pitch their tent there or any of that stuff. And literally they're doing nothing for anybody. All they're doing is trying to move the eyesore out of the way.
Yeah.
And that's all. There's no. I mean, if we were really working towards something, we would work towards housing first, which means that housing is a right. Right? Housing is a right. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't just help the people who are on the street, because it helps us in turn. It helps the entirety of society. I mean, if you have somebody who's on the street and they're a drug user, and you put them inside of a house, then they're going to make choices inside of that house. Mm-hmm. They're not going to make the choice. And I have no. This is not saying anything against anybody whatsoever. All I'm saying is that if you're homeless and you're shooting up heroin and you're doing it in the park, then you're leaving your needles in the park. Yeah. If you're in a home and you're shooting up heroin, you're leaving your needles in your home. So it makes our environment safer, and you can also have wraparound services to help you with that while you're in that home.
There are a lot of services in the area, but the problem is outgrowing the support net. I call it. The city does have a net of support. You have a lot of agencies, a lot of nonprofits, but I think the issue has outgrown that support. In other words, we don't only need a lot of agencies will, take people and move them around, promising things, and it doesn't happen. So you're right. We as a community need to come up with a, because I know we all count on our politicians too. But we also, as society, should put the pressure on them, or we should also, see what we can do too, And I'm not saying it's our fault. I'm just saying, what I'm trying to say is I'm going to say there's ways that can be done.
Well, I just know that I used to be a house manager for 3 developmentally delayed sex offenders, right? Yes. And as that house manager, the women that I served were high need. So I had 9 staff in this house that served these women 24 hours a day. Mm-hmm. And the wraparound services that they got, they were able to work themselves. Mm-hmm. They were able to provide a better life, not only for themselves, but they're out here helping others in the world, in the world. But at the same time,
it's a progressive life.
But at the same time, they have there were always these protocols set in place, right? Things like that. So I know that if we can provide housing for these women, for these people, we provided housing for these women. We provided staff to help them with their finances, with their daily life, with getting back and forth to work, with doing things in life that made them more productive than sitting in a jail cell for the rest of their life,
or
right?
outside being cold.
Or out, but just if we can do this for the women that I served, I know for a fact that we can do this for the people that are out here on the streets. I mean, it doesn't have to look exactly the same.
Oh, no.
It does not. I'm not saying that it has to look exactly the same.
I don't think there's ever going to be one solution. There's going to be a bunch of solutions.
Right, exactly. But we have to be solution focused.
Exactly.
Alton?
She's going to allow you to speak now.
No, it's okay. I was just listening to what Melissa was saying, and I totally agree with her that we work in collaboration to address the issues, not for it to get worse, but for it to get better. And that's what needs to happen. And if we don't do it, then it's more likely going to get worse. So I'm so concerned about my fellow citizen, resident Americans who will be facing possible eviction to join the unfortunate scene of other Americans who are currently homeless. So those are my concerns. I don't know what the city can do. I don't know what the state is willing to do to enforce, to see if there's another moratorium will help. But something needs to be done to address the ills that we are currently facing now within the city of Tacoma and the state of Washington.
Exactly. And like I was just saying, you're right. I mean, people out there, we're getting to a point, in my mind, that the solutions are not coming fast enough. I was seeing a video of how I used to, when I was a young man, I used to go to Seattle quite a bit. And now, Seattle, I don't even recognize it. And I think Tacoma, is, as much as we're trying to do it, I'm starting to get that feeling where the crime's going up, more people on the streets. And like I said, it's going to take all of us to, it's not going to be one solution. But you're right, we also have to hold our politicians accountable.
Right, and you mentioning Seattle, like I just want to state that like Tacoma, it has the highest year-over-year rent growth of any Puget Sound city, like any Puget Sound city. So like we're in it, and they say that there's thousands of 3,100 apartments trying to be built over the next 3 years, right? But I mean, with our ridiculous rents and with the fact that people who work within our city cannot sustain their, the expenses here, then it just means that like you're building these shoddy apartments, these apartments that aren't going to last for more than 50 years. They're just not. Like they're being built so quickly, and you're giving 8 to 12 year abatements to the developers, right? Like you're giving your 12 years, just like Nikki and I were talking about this earlier, that like 12 years is a whole generation. So you're giving tax breaks to a developer for a whole generation to build a shoddy apartment that isn't gonna last at all. And really all you're trying to do, because Nikki, you said that you were at that thing that you were at where the mayor was there and she was encouraging people to move here.
Oh yeah. So there was a bill signing here in Tacoma. What was that, a week ago? And Inslee was here, and he signed. It was a transportation bill, and I serve on the Sustainable Tacoma Commission, and so I went, and the mayor was. Mayor Woodard, she got up there on the microphone and made a comment about, we have some housing left. Come on to Tacoma. It's the greatest city in the world, and I don't know, like I was kind of upset with hearing her the way she was speaking about that, because we have a lot of homeless people here, and I think that's really crappy to invite out of towners to come move to Tacoma when we're not even taking care of our own people.
So basically, I mean, what the dog whistle is, right? What we're not saying out loud is it those of you who and I mean, really, if you really want to get down to the crux of it, this has been the curse of Tacoma ever since Tacoma has been built, because those who built Tacoma were kicked out. We're told that it was necessary for them to leave, and so now those of us who have lived here, I've lived here for 40 of my almost 47 years, right? So like those of us who have lived here for the majority of our lives and have tried to build a life here and have added to this city itself, we're being told you're not worthy because you don't have enough money. These people who are moving in from other places, they have higher value than you. So let's gentrify, let's colonize this entire city and kick everybody out, right? Everybody who is a service worker, you're going to have to live somewhere else. You're going to have to bus yourself in to go ahead and serve us.
Yeah. And sadly enough, we already have that situation for Tacoma people, because a lot of us commute to Seattle every day.
A lot of people here do commute to Seattle.
So it's going to make it harder. Although, I mean, a little bit good things. We do have the train now that goes to Seattle. But I remember when I moved here back in the 90s, I mean, every day I was at 5-4 in the morning on the freeway because I didn't want to be in traffic. Tacoma has grown, though, too, in some ways, and which is good for the local economy. It's not all about this. But like I said, like you said, we need to put that solution-minded to work where we could say, hey, we do need, they always talk about, helping people with rent and stuff, but they were throwing money at it when the COVID was here, and they can still do it now.
Well, and that's the other thing too. And I know that I'm talking a lot, but I do know that I know what I'm talking about. So that's why I am talking a lot. That's the other thing too, is that like in the beginning of COVID, like basically everybody had a job, right? Like not everybody had a job, but everybody who had a job in the beginning of COVID, of course, they're going to give out this money, and then the people who have had a job are going to get a little bit from this money, because they're going to use the money that you had a job for. They're going to use the money that you're getting through unemployment, right? But now it's the end, and everybody is at their end. They're at their end's wits. They're like scrambling and struggling, and now they're like, oh, but we gave out money in the beginning, because that money in the beginning was just a small boost. You know, all of it, even the federal money that we got, that's just a small boost. It's nothing to help us out really, right? And so now now that the moratorium is over for the power bills, right? They're going to give you 2 years to pay back the money that you could not pay in the beginning back. They've raised the rates on our power bills, and also it takes 6 weeks for them to figure out whether or not you even qualify for the little help that they're going to try and give you. So here you are at the end of this. You're at the end of your rope. You have no money. You don't know what to do. You're like, hey, I don't want my lights turned off. But they're like, you're just going to have to pay it all back. And if you miss one payment, then it's going to all be due in full. And it's going to take 6 weeks for us to even figure out whether or not we're going to give you the tiniest bit of help. Like, what is that? What is that? That's just letting the rest of us like just fend for ourselves.
I'm going to let our guest Alton speak a little bit here. Alton, we're supposed to know you, and this is great though. This is great information. If you're from Tacoma, we have said a few things that are very helpful, you know. And so, what do you think, Alton?
I think the as Melissa rightly stated about the end of the electric moratorium, yes, it's a little bit sticky situation, because what the city have done, they will put the bill payers right back in the situation where make it very difficult. And the challenge is, if you really want to help those citizens, at least you should at least give at least 3 years, because that wouldn't hurt you, the city. You know, 3 years, 4 years, or even to somehow forgive those bills that are come due, and then approach the federal government, because I do know that the cities still have money in their coffers as relate to money that they get from the feds for the COVID, and the money's there so they could forgive those payers of TPU who will be put on a payment plan, and if they miss one payment. Now, while they're in the payment plan, if they make a payment, if they miss one payment, right, on the payment plan, and if they can't pay their current payment of the electric bill that is due, then more likely everything will be due, within the next month. And that make matters worse for all of the payers who will be placed in this particular predicament. So I believe that something should be done. Now, Unfortunately, those who don't find themselves in this situation don't have to worry about it. But if they could take off their shoes, and put themselves in the citizens who are in this predicament, they will know what it's like. And don't have children, where they have to depend on the light and the water. And so if you're going to make a choice between paying your electric bill versus putting food on the table, which one you're going to do? More likely try to keep the lights on, right? And then the children are going to go hungry, and that's not okay. That it should be unacceptable.
Especially in this country, never mind the power bill and the rent. You also got gasoline prices, and I don't want to even talk about that.
And food prices.
Yeah, so food prices are, from what I hear on the news today, that they are going to start going up.
They have. Yeah. They definitely have in Tacoma area right now. They have.
I agree with you, Alton, that the city has money that they could do. That they could do more with, especially when they're paying our city manager more than the governor of the state is making. So, I mean, come on.
There's just some sacrifices that can be made, There are a lot of sacrifices that can be made. They ask us to sacrifice. You would want to know that your governor or your government is making sacrifices personally, you know.
Well, and they sent out that Survey Monkey when they asked about where should we spend this weed money, right? Where should we spend this cannabis money? And none of the choices were, hey, let's help out our people. It was like what organizations should we send this money to? But it wasn't like, hey, should we send this money to the the Tacoma Public Utilities to help out people, who are behind on their electric bill. It wasn't anything like that. So, and everybody's always like, but there's rules and there's places where, but I mean, we're the ones that make the rules. Like literally, they're not. It's not a hard, steadfast thing out there. We can make changes, and they should be fluid enough to take care of our people.
Exactly, and again, now we're talking of the method of the government handling things, and it has to be flexible. I think the government does have to be flexible in these situations.
I see Kyle. I see Kyle there watching, and he said that when we were talking about the rocks out there, he said that they're blockers, boulders.
Blockers, boulders. All right,
Are they?
Well. I just see it as something that we were talking about, organizations that get involved to try to make a difference. And to me, I think it's more hindrance to trying to make it look like they're doing something when they're not. Bottom line. I mean, to me, I know, again, we're talking about solutions, but it just becomes something that if it's not helping, it's just another avenue for people to shove somebody to get help, and they don't get help. Yeah.
One, as already stated, I look at the city council. The city council does not reflect the city that we live in, right? We have a black mayor, we have a black female city councilwoman, and we have 2 black male city councilmen. And then the others are Caucasian American, male and female.
Oh, well,
we don't have
Joe's Cambodian, but
I've never seen any Chicanos up there.
Joe, yes, I wasn't saying no Latino, no Hispanic, no Asian, and they're citizens who live within the city, and they have a voice. They're taxpayers, and so when you have a community that's been left out, right, that's not okay, because they have issues and concern, but who can they go to? There's no one in the city council that speaks Spanish. Who can they go to with their issue? They find themselves in a situation where they can't pay their rent, can't pay their electric bill. But who can they go to? They may have resources there, but they need someone to represent them. I've always said the city council, no taxation without representation. If I have no representation, then you shouldn't tax me. And so those are the issues that we're facing in our community. And I don't know what the mayor is doing, what the council is doing to change this, but every person who lives within the city should have someone that they can go to with their issue and their concern pertaining to the issue.
Exactly. I believe in not even just for representation's sake. I mean, I believe there's a lot of great minds out there. And but we'll start reflecting. I think I have a feeling that's going to change. There's going to be reflection on what we do. There's a lot of Hispanic groups here in Tacoma who are working hard for their Hispanic people. As I mentioned it to you the other day, we are one of the largest minorities in town. And
16% of Tacomans are Latino.
Hispanic. And this is why I do this kind of show, to show that, especially this station. I mean, again, all these views are part of my show. But this station also does a lot of great work. This program, I'm very proud to be in this program with our producer, and the station is beautiful. It's doing great representation on the radio for this program. Another thing that I wanted to talk about was, we're getting kind of close to the time too. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that you are, people know your personality. Okay, you make yourself clear when you speak at the council, and do you have you had any kickback or any kind of repercussion from putting these people up against the wall? I've always asked that about you. It's like, I said it at the beginning of the show, and I'm going to say it again. I admire you because you speak your mind. You know, hey, don't speak. Have you ever had any repercussion or any issues with, you know, with what you say? I mean, I like I said, I admire you, bottom line, because you have the gonads to do it. And I hate to say it like that, but.
Yeah. No, thank you, Juan. No, I've never had any kind of pushback or problem from anyone within the city. You know, I, just as a citizen, I take it upon myself, as you know, I'm not an elected official and I'm not speaking on behalf of any citizen here in Tacoma, because the first thing someone would say, who would think he is? I didn't elect him. He's not speaking for me. And that's correct. I'm not speaking for you. I'm speaking about the issues that impact you, whether you realize it or not, right? So I am not your representative. I'm only a speaker of the issues and about the issues that impact all of us. At the end of the day, we all live here in the city of Tacoma. And so, as you rightly stated, I even mentioned the Manny Ellis case, right? Even though just recently the county settled with $44 million, right? With the family, which is a good thing. But that's, you know, when they put money in somebody's life, $4 million is no money. You know, I know that Manny's family would have preferred to be here and the county keep their $4 million, okay? Ed Troyer, right, he's a part of this mess too. And he's still the sheriff, and people still supporting Ed Troyer. Ed Troyer lied, and King 5 called him lying about how many officers were there, lying in his investigation. You know, we found first he said there were 3 Tacoma police officers that were present. Come to find it was 5. There was a county sheriff deputy there from this time. There was a state patrol officer there. It was all a cover-up as related to Manny Ellis. But this is what I want to say about the issue. We all remember what happened in Missouri with George Floyd and Chauvin, right? Mm-hmm. There were 3 other officers there that did not intervene to stop Chauvin from murdering George Floyd, right? Mm-hmm. And so we have 2 officers in Tacoma that was acquitted. They said they were cleared of police policy violation. The officer name is Armando Hernandez and Messiah Ford. Those 2 officers, the police department say they're going to retrain them, give them their badge and their gun again to go back into our street. I'm saying they should not. And we're saying that they should not. You know the reason why? They were present when Manny Ellis was murdered, right? And because they were present, yes, exactly. And they did nothing to stop the other 3 officers from murdering Manny Ellis. And therefore, they violated Manny Ellis' civil rights. So I just want everyone to know that these 2 officers should not be back on the street. They should be held accountable for the violation of Manny Ellis' civil rights. So those are some of the issues that are still plaguing the city. The city manager is afraid to come front and center and speak about the police department because they have a powerful union. And because of that, everyone is afraid of the police officers and the police union. But the union, I do support the union, don't get me wrong. But when you have officers who are doing bad things, they need to be held accountable.
Exactly. What were you saying, Nikki?
The city manager really needs to step it up, especially when she's making more than the governor of the state. I think that she could do more.
Anyways, but you're right. Accountability is not just when you get, prosecuted for something. If you were there and you didn't do something about it, to me, you're just as guilty, for not speaking up or supporting or anything like that. Bottom line is, but the good thing is, we also have a new chief of police, and hopefully some changes will come. Hopefully we do the recruiting. This city, like I said, can't continue the way it is. There's been a lot of defacing and breaking windows and no response. So I hope if someone's listening, I really think that's one of the solutions that would go well. Maybe have some more enforcement. But bottom line is, it just seems like we're gloom and doom here. But sometimes this is why I had Alton, is because sometimes you just gotta say it. Sometimes you just gotta say it. The political game is good. People may look at it as like, oh, they're just complaining, but if it doesn't get said, sometimes it doesn't get resolution. You know what I mean?
I want to be, yeah, you're so right. And we must talk about the corruption here too in the city of Tacoma and also in the Pierce County. There's a lot of corruption, a lot of cover up. We have our prosecutor that is currently in office, and Mary Robnett, right? And she also knows about the corruption in the city because she's been in the prosecuting office for over 20-something years, if not longer. Then she went away, and then she came back to become prosecutor. And we were hoping that she was going to be an honest broker when it comes on to justice in our community. And she have not exemplified none of those traits. She talks about them, but have done the total opposite. And the reason why I say this one, and to the listeners, is because Dr. Salin, right? He was arrested back in 2009 as an accomplice to the murder of those 4 Lakewood police officers. And my condolences goes out to the family. However, so many times we have watched the TV where people have been locked up for 40 years, 30 years, and later on they were free because somebody lied. Somebody lied, right? Now, Dr. Salin's been lied on, right? They say it was a getaway driver. The FBI reports say they could not identify that he was not the getaway driver. Mark Lindquist, the former prosecutor, told someone that we need to find something to hold this guy. He's been locked up since 2009. They tried him, he was found guilty over on emotion. He got 410 years in prison. And all that one today have been overturned. And he have got granted a new trial by the Washington State Supreme Court. And now, with all his appeals, that's pending. They have tried him right now for 4 counts of murder, right? And for you to commit murder, right, you have to, number one, be present to commit that murder because you have to commit the assault on that person first and then take the life of that person. He was never present. And so how can you charge someone with 4 counts of murder who was never present at the scene when this murder occurred of these Lakewood officers? And so the truth must be told. There's a corruption here in Pierce County, and no one really want to hold the bull by its horn and say, hey, we need to start doing it right. We need to get it right because something needs to be done. Like Dr. Martin Luther King rightly stated, injustice to one person is an injustice to all. So tomorrow it may be you. The next week it might be me. Maybe Melissa, maybe Nikki. So what we're saying now, while we have the voice to speak out against injustice, we should do it now and not wait for tomorrow because it's not promised to any of us.
Thank you for saying those words because you're right. I mean, I think the most fallible injustice is watching somebody to go through something and you don't do nothing about it. You know, to me, like you said, if it's one of us and somebody else doesn't speak up, you know. But you know what? The 1 hour is almost 1 hour. We're getting here to the end of the show. And I usually at the end of the show, I like to go ahead and have people that are my guests to maybe, if there's something in their mind that they want to say, people are going to be listening and watching. And we'll start with you. Anything that you may want to say that to leave you on the 1 hour show here, because we're going to be going through a lot of people on the show.
So yeah, Juan, I want to thank you this evening for having me on your show. I appreciate the work that you're doing with my other guests who are sitting here with you. And as we continue to do this work, just remember, we cannot do it single-handedly. We have to do it collectively, in collaboration, because the change that we want to see must begin with us so that we can effectuate that change for the greater community. Yep. So Margaret Mead rightly stated that the change I want to see in the world must begin with me. So I want to make sure that I'm one of the change agents, working with yourself, Juan, Melissa, you know, and to make sure that we can bring forth this change that we want to see in our community. And again, I want to thank you for the work that you're doing, and thank you for having me.
Thank you, sir. It's been an honor to have you in my show, and I'm glad I was able to tell you in my lifetime that I love listening to you when you let them have it. All right. Thank you. Well, how about you? Anything that you want to say before we go here?
Yeah, I just want to switch gears for like 2 seconds. And, you know, we work together as a community. And when something impacts one of us, it impacts all of us, just like we've been saying. And I really just want to take two seconds here and state that my friend Lori Jackson used to be a PCO in the 29th, and then she moved to be a PCO in the 28th. And unfortunately, We lost her a couple of days ago, and I just want to say that Lori was a big proponent of Red Berets, Medicare for All, and she was a big proponent for cannabis, and those are things that in Washington we should really actually care about. And this Saturday we will be in Wrights Park talking about Red Berets and Medicare for All, and definitely paying homage to Lori. So
thank you.
We love you, Lori.
Thank you, Lori. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you. And again, this Saturday, right?
This Saturday in Wright Park.
Wright Park. Okay, so Nikki, is there anything that you want to say?
Yeah, thank you for having us here tonight.
Okay.
I wanted to let everybody know that at the next Sustainable Tacoma Commission meeting, they're always on the third Thursday of the month at 5 o'clock. So the next one's on the 21st, and I believe we're going to have PSE, Puget Sound Energy, on our next meeting. It says tentatively. So, is that how you say it? Tentatively?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Tentatively.
Yeah, that one. And, but apparently they're going to be doing a presentation about decarbonization. So, I'm kind of curious about that one. And, our public comment is always at the beginning and end of the meeting. So please come to the meeting and come talk to PSE.
Make a difference. Well, I'm going to close it up. It's the 1 hour show here, and I'm excited that we had this conversation here tonight. My goal for this show was to let people know that you do have a voice. You have the right to speak up. You have the right to be represented. My guest, like I said, he is well known for his admiration of the justice that we need to have in the city. But most important, I think what I got out of this show is that we all need to do something. We can't just sit there and watch it. We talked about police standing by when things are happening. It's the same thing if you're just sitting around watching people be homeless and you're not doing nothing about it. Bottom line is, this show hopefully will help you change a little bit of your mind of how you feel, because the government's not going to do it all for you. Bottom line. You got to get out there and stand up and fight for those who need help. The second thing that I want to leave this behind is that it's Nikki's birthday next week. And I would like to end my show with a quick happy birthday because my time's up. And so anyways, Alton,
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, dear Nikki. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
My political consultant. Thank you. Good night.
Power of the people.
Yeah.
BT, radiouniversal.com